everybody, welcome to MUSE TV. We're here with Eryl Cochran, the producer of Embattled. Tell us a little bit about the film and how fun was it to work on this, because it's very unique and reminds me very much of a particular film from the 70s, Rocky.
I can say the MMA was not a world that I was familiar with at all. I have to be quite honest with you. And so in stepping into this movie and getting access to the fighters that were involved with it, Eric Anders, Kenny Florian, Tyron Woodley, and working actually with a lot of the consultants at Spartan Fitness in Birmingham, Alabama, I became so entrenched in this. And I guess the easiest way to say it is you'll never see me step into the cage, but they definitely made a fan of me as far as the MMA is concerned. But I think the truth of the matter is that this film is so much more than MMA. Like, of course, it's an MMA film, but I feel that on top of that, like when you mentioned Rocky, is that, it's not just a boxing movie. It's the fact that you go on this journey with that character. And I think in the same way that you do with our lead character with Cash, where ultimately I think our film raises the questions of whether it's possible to break an abusive cycle in a family, what the kind of the very special adventure of raising a child with special needs, and then also addressing toxic masculinity and how it's a dying breed. So I think, which I think is very timely at the moment.
I don't know what gave you that idea. With everything that's going on in this world. I don't know. But to be honest, when I was looking over the film and I was watching it, and I watched it last night, that's the one thing about sports movies that are done well. It's not about the sport, it's about the people who are around the sport. How was it in the writing room and getting it all together to make sure that you don't lean into too many, you tell the story perfectly and you don't lean into other things, and it works out really good?
Well, I think in particular with David McKenna, who had written American History X, and in particular, this story is very close to him because one of his children has Williams syndrome. And I think between Nick, who was a fighter himself, he was a boxer, and between David McKenna, who just brings such a reality to his characters, it was the combination of those two, of truly understanding what it was to be a fighter. Like Nick, in the film, when there's that tunnel vision that happens with fighters, like he comes from a personal experience of that. And I think truthfully, between the team of whether it be our stunt coordinator or our fight choreographer, and with all the people that we brought in, they made sure to keep it on the level. I mean, I learned more about like rear naked choke and like all these different terms and just what the reality of being a fighter is about. And we just had a very collective effort to make sure that came across on the screen.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I really love. And the acting, the actors that you picked up to do this film, from Stephen Dorff to Darren Mann, even Donald Faison, who played just great roles in this film. I mean, what was it about Stephen Dorff to bring him in as Cash?
I think the thing with Stephen, he's the ultimate professional. I mean, he is all in when he comes onto a film, and he really is. And he kind of on a side one day was like, I get to be a jerk for the next couple of weeks, because he really embraces it. And it kept being like, is he being himself? Is he being Cash? Like, what's going on? But he literally understood, because I think it's very easy with this particular character to play at one note. And he understood the multiple layers that are involved with Cash, and that he really is a byproduct of how he was raised. And the fact that Stephen embraced that and never pandered to it in any way, shape, or form, and just kept it real. He is who he is. He doesn't apologize for who he is. And the way that he raises his son is based on what he knows.
Yeah. And Darren is just at another level. His performance is at another level that I was just kind of like, it really drew me into him. Like, I really think he shines in this film.
Darren it's interesting because he was cast very last minute and really had to step in. I was sitting at a screening of a movie that he did that was in Toronto, texting Nick, being like, he's amazing. And he got on a plane the next day and stepped in. And I think the thing with Darren is that he just has this tenderness. And I think that it was kind of, we say that basically the reason why that Jett is the way that he is because of the relationship that he has with his younger brother. And what Darren told me is that he grew up as the younger brother. He had an older brother and never understood how annoying that could be, you know, to the elder sibling having to kind of take care of a younger sibling. And he said that he, for the first time, really channeled that and has such a deeper appreciation for his brother and kind of having to take on that role. And he really, I would say, the amount of homework that he did, literally daily, sitting there in his notebook, writing everything down, literally saying, why am I saying this, and questioning everything, is exactly why we have the performance that we have from him.
Yeah. And I just, that's his performance has just stuck with me through this whole thing. And with, I wish that theaters were open so people could experience this inside a theater, because this is a theater movie. This isn't a movie where you can see it at home. Yet you could, but it gives it a different aspect in a movie theater. Where I think this one really would have, if theaters were open, it would have shined so much and got a big, big audience out of it because it was so good. How hard is it where we're in this pandemic now? We're so used to seeing like movies like these that are theater movies, theater presentations. How hard is it to miss that, to not to have that experience?
Well, I think, I mean, it's going to be released in some theaters, and we keep finding out kind of on a daily basis which theaters it's going to be in. And I think that the whole idea of COVID, or I think what all of us have had to realize in COVID, is that you just have to adapt and you have to be willing to change. And ultimately, absolutely, everyone wants their movie in theaters. But at the end of the day, as many eyeballs as you can get and as many people that you can get to view the film, because we just want people to have the opportunity to see it. And so if that ends up being on demand, or if they happen to be in a city where it's playing, for us, it's just wanting people to see it. And I feel like if we, with COVID, if we stay kind of stuck on what things used to be, we'll drive ourselves even crazier than we are now. And I think it's adapting to the times. And I think IFC throughout COVID has been really great about this, as far as just not letting it stop them in any way, shape, or form as they've been putting films out. So my hope is, especially with this particular film, that the word of mouth, when people do get to see it, that they just tell other people. Because I think if people sit down to watch it, I think they'll love it.
Yeah. Do you think that, as a producer, has it changed your mind and changed your trajectory on how you promote a film now?
Well, I think it's more about the advanced time, like meaning in the end of the day is that it used to seem like you needed weeks and weeks to be able to promote a film, to make sure that it kind of reached where it needed to. And now, because people have so much time in front of their screens, it seems like that lead time is much shorter, because it's wanting to kind of have that instantaneous return. If they like the trailer, if they read an interview or read a positive review, being able to instantly click and watch it. And so I think that it's kind of one of those things that we've all had to learn how to breathe and say, okay, like we're going to wait, we're going to let it get out there and kind of push it, when it needs to be pushed.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I want people to see this movie, because I think this is one of those movies right now where you have to see it. It's just a great story. How did the story develop? How did you, when you're working with your writing team, how did it come together?
It's interesting. So, basically there was a story where basically David McKenna did want to pay an homage to his sons, in the sense where he has his eldest son, Jack, then his second son, Colin. And I think that he really wanted to pay tribute to that special relationship between the two. And there was this, idea of a father confronting, or a son confronting his father, which I think, I'm not a father, I'm not a son, but I think as far as some of that animosity that can occur, like what would happen if there actually was some sort of physicality that ended up being set in the world of MMA.
Yeah.
And David went with it. And I think that's why it kind of does this happy balance of basically dealing with the issues between, fathers and sons, and accepting them for who they are and actually making that separation from them. And then also the idea of really the dynamics in a family when you have a special needs child. And I feel, truthfully, that there was just a lot of back and forth. I mean, I initially was even wrong at one point, like wanting to make Cash more likable. And I had to step away and say, why do I want to make him more likable? He is who he is. And that's the one thing that David McKenna brings to the table consistently, is a reality.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with that part, especially with director Nick Sarkisov.
Sarkis.
I love the way he directed this film, because I've seen a few MMA films this year, and you can see the use of a lot of blue screen and green screen in the shots. Where in this one, it felt like you were there in the arena. You with for the fight scenes, he really brings a lot of the heart and drama into a lot of his shots. How did you find him, and how did you were you able to get him on board? Because he directed the film so well.
He's my business partner.
Oh, cool.
So,
Well, you
so
made
that's how
it
I've been
easy
able to
then.
find him. So it's very easy.
Yeah.
But he's like, Nick is someone truthfully that it's very rare when he responds to a script, like very rare. So and I would say both of us, that when we respond to something, we kind of jump onto it and embrace it wholeheartedly. And truthfully, and Nick would say this himself, is that he has a complicated relationship with his father, who he adores, but also with his fighting background. And so I think that he knew, as he says, he's like, I knew that I was the one that had to tell this story. And he's always had such a clear vision of what it needed to be. And because of that, it made it very easy for our entire team to kind of come together and make sure that vision ended up on the screen.
Yeah, and I cannot say it enough. You all did an amazing job in putting this film together. What can you tell the Muse audience to get them to watch Embattled?
I think it's just to say that it's literally not at all what you expect. It will give you everything that you want and then so much more. And in the fact, if you sit down and you go on this journey, I think that it will touch people in a way that they were not expecting. I know from experience with even, working with different post-production team that we've sat there as they've broken down and cried when they watch the film. And Nick and I are like, do we leave? Do we stay? Like, what do we do? And I think that it will actually take people on an emotional journey that hasn't been done in a really long time, and in a very unexpected and a very authentic way.
Yeah. And how could they see it? What distribution channels will it be available?
Well, it depends on what city. But
Exactly.
in certain cities, yeah, I'm like, I know we're, every day I'm like, we're in Ohio, we're in Michigan. So basically it depends on the city. And then also just video on demand is really what it is. So November 20th, 2020. And I think, I think people, especially with everything that everybody has experienced in the past couple of days, like, this is a release. And I think that we've been missing, because so many productions had to shut down and just not having new films. I think this is a film that actually in any normal time would be coming out. And it's at that level, at that quality, at that authenticity, the drama, everything will take people on a ride that I think they've been missing during the pandemic.
Yeah. And I think it'll be a great Thanksgiving dinner, after dinner film.
It's our family movie. Like, we're like,
exactly.
it's a rough one, but here's our Thanksgiving family film.
Exactly. But it's a good talk about film. It's a talk about what's going on.
And what we truthfully have had is that what I've kind of heard from the very few people that have seen the movie is, I've had people call me and say, my brother and my father have been estranged for a long time, or I've been estranged from my father for a long time, and I want to sit down and watch this movie with them, or have them watch it together, because I do think it gets that conversation started.
Yeah, it really does. And I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I'm going to buy it to see it again because it's so well done. And it's such a great year for independent film. Thank you so much, Eryl, for coming on Muse TV and talking to us about the film. We look forward to seeing it again. And don't forget to watch it November 20th on video on demand, Embattled.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.